Hello, and welcome to Two Crones and a Microphone. I am Sally.
And I am Betty.
We are cultural midwives. Our podcast is about shared wisdom through storytelling and research from us as experienced crones and friends. Many ask how we came to know each other. We first met decades ago studying with Oceana and other teachers. We love doing these podcasts and sharing the wisdom and are committed to mentoring not just each other, but you as well, and love sharing it with you. Some days it's harder than other days, I will say. We are experienced crones and we have been through the mill, as have many of you. We're here to share ways to help you navigate the muddy waters of our time, and as Oceana would say, to help you clear the rackaroo. This is, believe it or not, year number 3. And as part of year number 3, we, as the crones in question, want to talk about finding joy and honoring ourselves. This is important because when we find joy within ourselves, when we fill our own cup, we can then help our communities, friends, family, whoever that community is. Today's topic is actually part of a two-part holiday series about creating joyous, grateful bliss that we've called Weaving Gratitude and Community into Thanksgiving.
In year 1, we covered grounding and herbalism, aromatherapy, and many other holistic topics to instill daily practices. Year 2 was restore and replenish with spiritual practices and many of Oceana's teachings. And now in year 3, for finding joy and honoring ourselves, finding the light within yourself, nurturing it and sharing it with your community and the world. And if you've been listening since we started, which one has resonated with you? You may want to let us know. We hear and think of you, and you are the reason we are doing this podcast. I ask you to look at our website for our in-person and online classes. This would be on Minerva. Pick one of these, feature it, and how about talking about the Facebook post about Betty Boop? The Betty Boop Cafe. Boy, people really love that one. Don't forget to support us by subscribing to our podcast and donating whatever you can afford to help keep us on the air.
So again, today's podcast is about joyous, grateful bliss and sharing that in community. Sometimes community is a solo venture. And sometimes it happens by being in a community, right? Bliss and community. This podcast will focus on community. Community and storytelling are a part of our human heritage and still part of our everyday purpose. Thanksgiving can be characterized as a celebration infused with gratitude. I know sometimes maybe we don't always feel that way, but historically it was infused with gratitude. This was a community celebration with the initial settlers and the Wampanoag First Nations people. And they, as far as we now know, shared food together and other things probably as well. But did you know that George Washington played a key role by declaring the first national Thanksgiving in 1789? Until we looked that up, I actually had no idea that it went back that far.
Me neither.
Thanksgiving became a national holiday, largely due to President Abraham Lincoln, who proclaimed it a holiday in 1863. Again, I had no idea that Washington and Lincoln were involved in Thanksgiving. Knew about the original settlers, but not about those two. Now, where I came in to recognizing it was in 1941. Not that I'm quite that old, but in 1941, when Franklin Roosevelt signed a bill setting the date as the fourth Thursday of every November. That Thanksgiving was celebrated, and it represents the Thanksgivings as we now know it. So when I was growing up, we were celebrating the Franklin Roosevelt version of Thanksgiving as opposed to the ones that came before. So just a little bit of history about that celebration infused with gratitude.
And this is a celebration that was created in large part so that families could get together. If it was a national holiday, everybody should be off from work. Not that everybody is. I mean, as a nurse, both Sally and I know that. We have worked many holidays. But it just gave people the opportunity to get together again. And as people move further and further away from each other, families move further and further away. The days of people living in the same neighborhood for their whole lives, that's changed. And so they have this one day where they can gather together, eat, celebrate, and enjoy each other's company. However,
yeah.
as we talk about this holiday, we have to realize that it is a lot of work for the person who is hosting this. Lately it's become fashionable to go out and eat some other place, perhaps take the whole family to this one restaurant and eat. But for me, the more fun is really having the whole family together. I mean, we had hosted as many as 20 people at our house in the early days of my marriage. And let me tell you, I was hopping around like a little bunny rabbit trying to get everything pulled together. Fortunately, my husband helped. He would make the turkey and the pepper stuffing, and he had his role, I had mine. We learned to work together. I was chopping a lot of stuff. People would bring things, and actually, it was really a lot of fun. The kids were little; they would play games. It was just a really, really good time. However, that being said, we thought we'd better give you some practical tips to help you maintain your well-being and enjoy the day and the weekend to the fullest, because it's on Thursday. Many people are off on Friday, and then you have Saturday and Sunday where you can shop or whatever. Shopping was never my big thing, but there's many, many things you can do with that weekend. But the first thing I would ask you to do is to set realistic expectations. Perfection is not achievable. Maybe for one or two people out there, maybe Martha Stewart, although I suspect she has a lot of help with that. And focus instead on the meaningful connections with your loved ones. The world's so fast-paced today that this is your opportunity to get together, hug your loved one. Think about back to the pandemic when we couldn't celebrate Thanksgiving. We weren't supposed to get together. Because God forbid, we got COVID at that point. You couldn't hug the person you wanted to hug because you couldn't get close to them, right? So think back to that and how unsettling it was. But be realistic, all right? And realize that the perfect turkey is not that important. Hugging your family and your friends and engaging with them, that is what's important.
And I'm going to hop in because my experience, my family and I have not lived close to either of our families for many years because of work kept us away. And it's difficult to travel during the holidays, particularly if you have children. So those of you who are traveling with children and or animals, if you're in the car or even on a plane, it's challenging, whether you're hosting or whether you're traveling in. So for many years, I was not home for Thanksgiving and even Christmas. And that can be difficult. But what we did was we had our house be a place where people who did not have family either could come and share Thanksgiving and just be around other people. And so we got to be really good gamers. And I'm going to be specific and say board gamers, not computer gamers, because, right, there is that differentiation now where people are gamers on communities that are online. So this will be the first time in many, many, many years, like into decades, where I'm actually going to get to go to my brother's house and be with everybody else at Thanksgiving, because he has always hosted Thanksgiving at his house. And so I'm looking forward to that. It does still involve traveling, but it's a really different way of doing things. So I know that those of you who are traveling, it involves a lot of time and energy to get that together so that you can go and be relaxed in your travel time. And those of you who are flying on the planes, well, the weekend sounds like it's going to have some interesting weather. So we wish you well with that. And thanks for letting me jump in. Because when you're looking at setting realistic
Mm-hmm.
expectations, whether you're hosting or whether you're traveling, if you're expecting your travel plans to go smoothly, ooh, you might want to re-examine that because it's really rare nowadays that you get on a plane and things go smoothly. Just saying. You might want
Absolutely.
to look at that and take a lot of extra food and diversion for the
Oh, yeah.
children.
Yeah. And you know what? Practice your breathing. Things start to get hairy, get those deep breaths in. If you've been listening to us, you know how to do that. I mean, I've been using that for so long. I don't even think about it anymore. Just, get those good deep breaths in, reset the nervous system, which is jangled, whether you're in an airport or in the car, just relax. You're eventually going to get there. Believe me, you eventually will get there. And that brings us to our next point. Take regular breaks to breathe deeply, stretch, or engage in a short meditation to help you stay grounded. And I mean, probably for me, it would be more of an affirmation rather than a meditation, because who has time to do a meditation when you're like stuffing the turkey and trying to get everything to come out together? It just where I might just say to myself, you know, breathe and relax, breathe and relax. And I'd be following that along, breathe and relax. Mindfulness, it's going to save your bacon, I promise. Remember to nourish your body. All right. Eat balanced meals, stay hydrated during the day. And I'm not talking about the alcoholic beverages that you may or may not be having in your life. I'm talking about good old-fashioned water or flavored water, but just keep drinking to stay hydrated because you don't realize how fast you get dehydrated. And once you get dehydrated, you don't feel well. And then that leads to being cranky. And nobody likes a cranky person at the Thanksgiving table. If you're cooking, make sure you keep your energy levels up. And if you have to snack, go right ahead and do that. This is the only time I'm going to tell you eat snacks because you don't want to get hangry. I'm well versed in that because I get hangry when I get really hungry. And I always make sure I have a little protein, something or another to eat to just keep my blood sugar level. I try and stay away from the sugary things, although you may find me sneaking a cookie or two, gluten-free, of course, I get that little boost to the sugar. So those are the first three things that we would recommend. And the next one is probably one of the most important ones. Establish boundaries before the meal. Okay. Don't be afraid to politely decline requests or activities that will deplete your energy. If you're dragging around the kitchen and somebody wants to go play flag football or touch football after the meal, that might be fine for them, but it may not be fine for you because you've been up cooking all day and they've been chit-chatting. So don't be afraid to say, no, I just don't think I can do that right now.
That's
And
a great example.
oh,
That's a great example. I jumped in, I know, Betty, but
that's
that's a
okay.
great.
No, I read about someone who had been to these, they're a very quiet person and very, contemplative and all that other stuff. They went to a friend's house. Oh my God, those people, she said to me, they were playing games all the time. It was unbelievable. Nobody sat down. Nobody had like a cup of tea. They were just up and let's go do this. Let's go do that. That was the family dynamic.
Okay, that might be me. Just saying, that might be me. Not the flag football part, but the building
Yeah,
the snowman, going
yeah,
sledding,
yeah.
going skating, let's go to the park, let's go to the zoo in the wintertime. Yeah, that might be me.
Yeah, well, it's okay for you to say, you know what? I think I'm going to stay home and just, relax a little bit. That's allowed. It's really allowed. And this business about politics and religion, if you know that your family can get very contentious over this, make a rule. Don't bring it to the house. Do not bring it to the house. If you can't refrain from talking about this, just leave it at the door. It will create more controversy than you need. All right. Unless, there are certain members of my family that absolutely love to argue. My mother was one of them. Oh my God. She would just love to get into a big hoo-ha about something. I'd be like, Mom, Mom, relax, calm down. It's okay. But she was like, but what'd she tell me when she said, Betty Ann, I feel alive when I do this. I'm like, great, Mom. Find another way to find alive, to be alive. It just stirred up the old juices. No,
So
this is not the place.
So I do come from a family of debaters. I won't say arguers. I will say debaters. But as people have married into the family, they bring a different framework to that. They're not necessarily debaters where you can have your own opinion.
Yeah.
And it's all good and we're all friends and we love each other. And yes, I recognize you're on a different side of a situation than I am, because that has gotten me in trouble in the past when it involves in-laws. But I will say that a good debate is one thing, but an argument and a disrespecting of somebody is a whole nother thing. And you reminded me, Betty, as you were talking about just leave it at the door. And so I'm going to bring in something that Oceana taught us, and I actually have them in my own house, and some of you may as well. And that is Apache burden baskets, where it was the tradition to have a basket and to leave it, at the time it would be outside a teepee, but to leave it by the door, and generally on the inside of the door. A lot of people are familiar with having crosses or other religious objects that you touch when you go in and out of the house. So within a Apache burden basket, you have this little woven basket that has tin cone rattles on it generally. And the notion is, if you have a burden, or if you have something that's going to interfere with the community or the family, that you consciously leave that at the door. Now, you could choose to leave it in that basket and not pick it up on your way out. Or, if you feel like you've got to pick it up on your way out, pick it up on the way out and take it with you. But the intention is to release it so that you can be in community with others and be respectful both of yourself and your own beliefs, and of other people and their beliefs, so that we can live in community being individuals, but not disruptive. So I love that. And I have burden baskets in my house, actually at both doors.
Yes, so do I,
And
actually. Yeah.
at my work, yeah, you do, Betty. I've seen
Mhm.
them. And I actually have one I have to give back to you that I made for you. But anyways, and I used to keep them in my work as well, so
Mhm.
that people could come into my office, be who they were, and they could sometimes leave the burden in the basket before they leave, so they didn't take it with them. And it's really a powerful tool.
Yeah, and it
And that was
doesn't.
pretty spontaneous. We were not planning on talking about that, but as you were talking, it came up, and I'm like, oh my goodness, this is an important piece of what we're talking about when we talk about family.
It is, and I'm thinking that you could take any basket or a bowl, even put it by your door, and tell the family as they come in, here, this is for you. Leave your burden in the bowl or the basket or whatever you have, and just come and have a good time. I think
You can
that's
even
a
have people, yeah, you could even have people write it on a piece of paper to make it
yes,
real,
yes, yes.
and fold it and just set it in there. And they could choose to take it with them when they leave if they want to.
I think that's
Yeah.
awesome. Of course, you and I and Linda, who is not here obviously today, but to us this is a common thing to do. It may not be for your relatives. You may have to give them a little bit of a backstory on that, so they understand what they're
Listen to this
doing.
podcast.
Yes, yes. And you'll get
If
the
you want to know
idea.
how I came up with this idea,
Yeah,
listen to this podcast.
too funny.
Oh my gosh, that's funny.
So,
Thanks, Betty, for letting me jump in and do that.
oh, no, 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 no. I'm glad you did because I didn't even think of that. But it's an absolutely wonderful idea. And I'm encouraging our listeners to use it for all your holidays when you have your gatherings. We have Christmas coming, we have New Year's coming. I mean, and traditionally family gets together, friends get together, just have them leave it at the door. And again, they want to pick it up on their way out, they're welcome to do it. I'm betting most of them will leave it though. The final thing I would say is seek solace in nature. All right. Just take a few minutes. There's this big popular thing now, grounding, buy these grounding mats or lie on a bed that has a grounding thing that you pay quite a bit of money for that's going to ground you. The heck with that. Just go outside. Put your feet on the ground. Okay, if you got a bunch of snow or something, you're going to have your boots on, but the intention is there. Just remember, energy follows intent. So you're intending to ground with the earth. And that is going to help you just whoosh, leave everything and you're reconnecting with the natural world. Taking a walk after eating, that's been proved to be wonderful for the digestive system. And it's recommended by many medical professionals. I'm one of them. Taking a walk after you eat, especially if it's a heavy meal, nice little walk. Or you could, sit and read a book. That was my go-to. I have to be honest. There'd be times I didn't agree with my stepdad,
Me too.
and
Well, I don't know about stepdad, but yeah.
no, I mean, stuff would be going on. I'm like, well, okay, I really wanted to finish this book. And for me, I could get away with it because, in my younger days, what did I do? I worked in the critical care unit. I was studying all the time. I was getting my bachelor's degree at that point. Then I was on for the master's. There's always something I could do, and I couldn't read the books I wanted to read. So I would take that time to escape, and everybody gave me a pass because they're like, oh, the poor kid, let her have her time. Um, so just pick up on what makes you happy. What makes you happy? Being in nature is amazing. May not be possible. The weather may be horrible. Grab a book you wanted to read. Listen to a podcast that you wanted to listen to. We have quite a few after 3 years. You could just like indulge, just to get out of that whole group thing. Sometimes you just need that break. You need the break. You're not being antisocial, but you need the break.
I love that. And it makes me think about, Linda just did a teaching that'll be on Minerva that is about Sarasvati. And one of the things she had us do was to listen to the birds. And so I think that's that same thing. Maybe you're not going outside. Maybe you live in Florida and you can go outside and you can listen to the birds. Or maybe you're looking, Betty and I both have all of these bird feeders outside our windows. And so we can sit and watch the birds and listen to the birds. Sometimes you can hear them through. And that might be what you do for 5 or so minutes before you say, okay, I'm ready to go back into the fray and jump in with all the kids screaming and all the people running back and forth and the dogs barking and the cats underfoot and you've got that space, that bandwidth to do that. So I love that. It doesn't have to be a whole forest bathing thing. It can just be, or a grounding mat, it can just be a few minutes to yourself, and to give yourself permission to do that, because a lot of times we don't give ourselves permission to do that.
Right.
And to say to a family member, you got to give me a minute. This has been really crazy, and I just finished cooking a turkey, and I need a few minutes to myself.
And
And we
by
don't
the
always
way,
do
would you mind serving the dessert?
that. Yeah,
Ask
ask
for
somebody
help.
else to do it.
Sure,
Oh,
serve the dessert. Help me
yeah.
clear the table. Don't forget to ask for help. That's a big deal. I used to do everything in the first days of our marriage, and then I was like, what the hell is the matter with you? How can you can't do everything? It's not possible. So, hey, when the grandkids came along, they were helping.
Yeah. So whether your community is family-based, or whether it's an intentional community where you have said, these are people of my heart, we share similar thoughts and feelings, and I don't have a birth family to have community with, so I'm going to create a community. And I think, Betty, you are one of those people who consciously does that. I know I believe I do that too, but in my past, when I've been living away from family, to intentionally set up community for those who don't have places to go. Our wisdom practice has kind of become the burden basket. So we actually have two wisdom practices in this particular podcast, because it's find a community event, create um, create one, maybe for yourself or somebody else. Maybe in your neighborhood or family, you're looking at what you want to do with people to set up a community that you might work with. And I think, it can be hectic and be difficult to know how you're going to go about setting up that community, but go out into the community. And I know we have some other things that we were going to say about that, Betty. Remind me, because it just all flew out of my head what I was going to say. But whether you're,
Well,
creating, yeah, go
you know
ahead.
what you might want to do? If you're alone, say, or there's just you and your partner, maybe you want to go help at a soup kitchen. Maybe you want to contact your faith-based community and see if they're serving for people who are alone, who want to spend the meal with other people. I mean, there are many opportunities out there for you to be of service to those who don't really have anything. And this day and age, there are many people who are in that situation. With things are not the best with the price of food and trying to pull everything together. So if people have the opportunity to go out and to a dinner that's offered to them, many people are going to take that. So think about joining that community, creating that community. I tend to invite people to my house, people that I know who are going to be alone, so that we can share a meal together. That's how, and Larry and I always did that when we were married. So just reach out to others. There's so many opportunities to engage in community service for Thanksgiving. So give it a thought. Give it a thought.
Thanks, Betty. I think I had a senior moment.
Yeah.
So get creative with how you're going to do that, right? And I love the volunteering piece, right? If you have extra time, and offer support in the form of meeting others and forming that community. And it's really important during the holidays. Can be a very isolating, lonely time for people.
Yeah.
So reach out. We've started to do communal baking and cooking in our community here, and that keeps growing actually as we do that, and it's a lot of fun. So, yeah, we appreciate you tuning into the podcast, and I'm going to turn it over to Betty to talk more about that.
Well, We would really appreciate if you send us your comments and questions, and we'll respond to them. If you want to engage with us on Facebook, Two Crones and a Microphone, we try and answer all of those, although that algorithm is terrible to work with, I have to be honest. But, we do our best to answer you, so please reach out. We also have a website, twocronesandamicrophone.com, and you can reach us through there. Please let us know if you used any of these suggestions that we gave you, any of the wisdom practices, particularly the bird basket. I am really interested in that one, and let us know how that worked out. I am going to add one little caveat before we end this, and that is, if you're serving alcohol at your home, and many of us do, I know it's in my home for the holiday. Well, it's in my home. I'm Irish. Of course, it's in my home. I shouldn't say that. Now I'm going to get all these comments from the Irish people going, not every Irishman drinks. Yeah, I know. But in my family, we do. So just be aware of the fact that it may lower your filters. So be careful with that. Be careful with that. You can always serve a non-alcoholic drink, or, there are other ways to get around that. Don't be afraid to share this episode with your friends and family. It might be a really nice way to kind of tell them what you expect for the holidays. And subscribe to our podcast, whatever your podcast provider is. Leave us a review. And really take this opportunity to be kind to yourself and others. The holidays weren't meant to be race around, drive yourself crazy, get everything perfect. You know what the Native Americans say, Ocean taught us this. Only Great Spirit creates perfect. We cannot. And I'm going to leave you with that, Sally.
Okay. So remember that our podcast is dedicated to sharing techniques to aid you and to navigate the muddy waters of our time, giving you ways to be kind to yourself and others. And I know you're used to Betty saying that. And Linda would say, go find a glimmer, catch your glimmer. Is there anything else you want to add before I do the final goodbye, Betty?
I just want to let you know that Linda would have been here today, but she has other engagements that she has to be taking care of today. But she did want to wish you all a very happy Thanksgiving.
Awesome. So remember to walk in beauty. Kidishte, all is made beautiful. And have a good and joyous holiday. And again, let us know how it goes. We want to hear.
Absolutely.
Hi, if you're enjoying Two Crones and a Microphone, please like this video and hit the subscribe button. Enjoy timeless wisdom from modern times, all served up by women in the know.